Greetings, my friend. Father Leo here once again, and for the 31st Sunday in Ordinary Time, and my reflection on it. Now, in order for today, I have to go back to last week where I talked about our city. And I pointed out that every organization, every institution, every corporation has its own angel. And I talked about, what do you mean by angel? I do not mean a little figure on earth flying around with wings. No. What I'm talking about is the power. The real power within an organization. And at the time I talked about, for example, schools. You often hear schools say, we've got great school spirit. And they'll talk about the wonderful ways why they feel empowered by that school spirit. I've also had people in a school tell me, this school is dead. There's no school spirit. And there's conflict in the staff room. There's a problem with the students. It's an unhappy workplace. So again, you got, on the one hand, a school spirit that's alive and life-giving and joy-filled, and you have a cool spirit that is everything but that. Conflict, resentment, backbiting, gossip, and it's an unhappy workplace. So those are two examples of spirit. We also talk about sports teams. Very often a sports team will say, we won because of spirit. We had a winning spirit in our team. And you could tell it from the beginning of the game until it's over that we were a winning team because we had a cohesive, empowering spirit that enabled us to be more than we'd be just individually. And then on the other hand, you'll have teams who often say, we were a defeated team before we started. There's been dissension and backbiting amongst us players. There's been blaming. We don't get along with the coach. The coach doesn't like us. We are a failing spirit. So that idea of spirit is something we experience, but sometimes we don't pay any attention to it and realize that when there is a life-giving spirit, it continues to become more and more of that by the fueling. On the other hand, where there's a dark spirit, dark energy, it just gets getting worse and worse and worse. Even though the staff may change, the students graduate, yet the angel, in other words, that spirit remains in the building or the institution or the corporation. Okay, so that brings us to today's reading, and I want you just to kind of get a sense of what St. Paul wrote one time when he wrote the Ephesians, because Paul did a lot of writing on the Spirit. The Spirit that's alive and life-giving, filled with good energy, and the dark spirit, which is actually the opposite. One energy creates and goes forward, the other energy becomes very destructive and painful. Let me read the reading for today from Ephesians chapter 6. Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power. Put on the armor of God, so that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, so that you may be able to withstand on that evil day, and having done everything to stand firm. So there we have it. He writes further on, put on the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. So there's Paul telling us about bad energy, dark energy, if you will, or the spirit, or what we call today the angel. And he points out that the spiritual warfare, and that's something that's really new to us because we live in a world that has become very materialistic, very consumerism driven. A world where the power, where is the power? You see, that reading speaks about the power. And that's the key to understanding the city angel, is the power. It's an interior thing. It lives within the organization. And that's right, truly, that's not truly the case. We call it an organism. It's organic. And you see, when a city is divided up into wards, then you've got a split city right away. You've got a split city ward. And very often those elected to one ward pay all their attention to their own ward because they want to get reelected, where the reality is they're supposed to be elected for the whole organism, the whole city. But that's not the way they see it. They want to be reelected, and they have to therefore favor their own ward. All right. So when we look at our own city, what you look for if you want to find out what kind of city angel do we have, whether it's here in Peterborough or in the city where you live, look for where is the power and how is that power being utilized either for the good of the citizens or not. So, where's the power? Well, I went looking this week. The first place I went, I told you last week, I went to the church buildings. Well, I went to the church building of our city, City Hall. It's inhospitable. You have to climb 2 sets of steps to get into it. And then there's all those barriers that have been put up. A barrier to the mayor's office because there has been threats. It's inhospitable. But yet that's where the power is. Decisions are made over the lives of citizens in that particular building, in that particular boardroom, or over the internet while the pandemic was raging. But nevertheless, that is the source of power. And I think we can see how that power has been used or misused over the years. Just up the street from it is a police station. Now the police station, again, is another kind of power. And the interesting thing, on their cars, cruisers, to protect and to serve. Well, who are they supposed to protect and serve? Is it the white privileged or all the citizens? And we know it has not been all the citizens, because there have been the removing, the taking down of the tents of the homeless. So the police have used their power to threaten the homeless unless they folded their tents and moved, and they know where to move to. But the power is there. So you've got the power of City Hall. You've got the power of the police station. You've got the power of this, not only the councillors in that City Hall, the power of the staff. The staff, they're the bureaucrats. They are there. Councillors come and go, elected and not re-elected. But the staff remains. And they have a knowledge, they have a history, they have a modus operandi. And in many ways, at times, the staff is making decisions that perhaps the council should be making. So within a few square blocks, there is the power that runs the city. And like I say, it's already been divided up and is a fragmented city. different words. Different words. And when you got half a dozen different words, then you have different interest groups. And we see some of the fallout of this. For example, our police force, good men and women all, and yet a large number off on sick leave. What's going on? We have our transit system. A large number of people, drivers particularly, are off on sick leave. Some bus routes have to be canceled because there's not enough drivers. What is happening? So I think if you take a good look at our city and your own city if you're not in Peterborough, take a look at where is the power. And is that power, it's an interior thing. It's enfleshed, if you will. It's enfleshed in the systems. It's enfleshed in the people. And they don't even know it. Very few people in most of our cities will be aware of today's second reading of the Spirit, the angel, and how it can either be an angel of light, creative, compassion, justice, inclusive, power used for the good of all citizens, not just the favorite ones. Or if we take a good look at the institution, the seat of power, City Hall, the police station, transit system here, a lot of power there. But again, I have to ask the question, what kind of power is it that's incarnated, if you will, that's embodied in the system, and those who are voted into the system internalize that within themselves? And maybe that's one of the reasons that we have some problems in town with drug addiction, alcohol addiction, homelessness, poverty, food banks, and all the rest of it. So we need to look at the power. And that's the word that Paul uses over and over again when he talks about the spirit world. He's talking about power, the power. And how that power, if it is a good angel, if the angel of an organism, an organic, and you have to remember, unless we see the city as organic, then we're disempowering ourselves. It's not just a group of neighborhoods. It's like your body, it's organic. And if everything in your body is working well, you feel good. But if something within you is not feeling good, you can be disempowered. You can feel weak or tired or dizzy or whatever. But so that's one of the organisms you know very well. And what's organic is your own body, your own self. Now expand that to the city. Organic. It's an organism where all are interconnected, interrelated. It's a web of life. And there's tremendous power there. And what kind of power is it? Is it the angel of light, where I said earlier, compassion, justice, love, forgiveness, reconciliation, healing, equality, inclusivity? Those are some of the signs of an angel of light, where power is used to create an organism that is equal and inclusive. On the other hand, where you have the opposite of that, you have the dark angel, dark energy, where there is disempowerment, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, where many of the people are living a very comfortable life, have no concern or interest for the well-being of those who are struggling, don't even know them, never see them, or if they do see them, they see them as simply a blight, the other. And a good example of how that happens with a dark angel is where you get dualistic thinking. Either you're good or bad. You're in or you're out. You're a success or you're a failure. So on the one hand, it's all of that. On the other hand, it's them other people. And when people have dualistic thinking, that disempowers the whole organization. It splits it. There's fractures. And just like if you fracture an arm, the whole body suffers. So if we fracture a city, the whole city suffers, one way or another. So what I'm asking you to do here is to try to understand, when I talk about the city angel, it's that interior spirit. It is a within spirit, within all of us. And it's either an angel of light or an angel of darkness. It's either creative energy or destructive energy, and all that goes with it. And when we take a good look at it, we should be able to see for ourselves an angel. Now, once we see the angel and are able to name the angel, then we expose the angel. And that's how we get healed from it. By being healed, by exposing the angel, bringing it into consciousness, naming it, identifying it, naming it, bring it into awareness. And when we do that, we then are able to embrace, to let go the dark angel, the dark energy, embrace the light and light energy, and recreate a community where life is really lived in the full. And that's why I'm talking about the angel of the city. Especially here in Peterborough, where in most cities across Ontario, where we have new councils, that's where we really need to see of how we take a good look at power. And remember the key word, well, two key words. The first key word is how we see. And we have to see our town, village, or city as a living organism. It is organic. It's one. It's one. And it has an inner life. And that inner life is either light or darkness. It's either light energy or dark energy. And that's the angel. And it's when we take the time to really get to know our city, know where the power is, who's got the power. And remember, the power's in the system. The power's in the angel. And then it becomes incarnated in the people who become part of the system. And so people then have to be awakened, become aware, to see, to come to identify and name the city angel. And once you've identified and named this angel, then it's to bring it out in the open, expose it to the light. And when the darkness is exposed to the light dissolves the darkness, and you've got something new that brings together people in a much more creative and inclusive manner. So that's why it's vitally important for us here in Peterborough and other cities to really take a look and say, power. First of all, are we disempowered because we just see it as a bunch of individual people? Or do I see it as a living, dynamic organism? That it's organic, it's one. If I don't see that, forget it. But I've got to open my eyes and see that. Secondly, power. Where is the power? And how is it flowing through the city? And you look at two things. You look at the source of power, City Hall, police station, transit. The city, is it one or divided into different wards what have you. And all those can indicate that there's a darkness. And unless we deal with that spiritual darkness, it's a disease. And people who belong to AA know very clearly what I'm talking about. Because if a person goes to AA, you hear words like demons, talking about an inner thing, an inner, something with him that has brought about addiction. But they've named it, they're bringing it out in the open, and they're able to practice sobriety, have a new life. And so that's kind of what we have to do if we're going to free ourselves up from the demonic, from the dark energy, the dark angel, and by shining the light of the light angel on the darkness, and dispel the darkness by the power of the light. So that's what I'm leaving with you today. It's just a little something different that I bet you a lot of people have never really thought about. Or maybe you have thought about it, but never really see how you can do anything about it. And so we just keep on doing the same old, and the problems just keep reoccurring. Same old problems. Never comes to an end. And it will continue not to come to an end until we get serious about looking at the city angel. God bless.